Hey y'all, new day, new verse. Today we're digging into Matthew 8 verses 14 through 17. Here we go. When Jesus arrived at Peter's house, Peter's mother-in-law was sick in bed with a high fever. But when Jesus touched her hand, the fever left. Then she got up and prepared a meal for him. That evening, many demon-possessed people were brought to Jesus. He cast out the evil spirits with a simple command, and he healed all the sick. This fulfilled the word of the Lord through the prophet Isaiah, who said, "He took our sickness and removed our disease." And I love the suffering servant poem, because that's where that's brought from, Isaiah 53, verse 4. And Isaiah 53, 5, of course, is, "He was pierced for our transgression, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that he bore, we are set free." Or by the punishment he bore. And I love the fact that all of it points to God keeping his promise about setting it right. But more than that, I think the idea of Jesus speaking it with a simple command, I think that speaks volumes. Because, we today and back then live in a culture of lowercase g gods. Back then it was Baal and, etc. Really, you can go through all of them, Hermes, Zeus, blah, 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 blah. Today, we live in a world of lowercase g is like money, power, prestige, social media fame, things like this. And I think it's interesting that in a world of lowercase g's, we have to force and pull and bite and claw and become savage wild animals. And yet, the one true God just needs words. Much like to the creation of existence. God spoke, and there was light. God spoke, and there was life. Simple command. No needing to fight, no needing to the true authority of the King of all creation, the Creator being, saying, no, this is how this actually works. And I love the fact that with a simple command, Jesus sends demons running. And he will send those things in our lives running that we shouldn't be pursuing in the first place. Because we're supposed to be pursuing him. And in pursuing him, we show our love to others. Goes back to the, when Jesus is asked what is the most important commandment. He says, the Shema, to love your Lord with all your much strength, etc. And the Leviticus, to love others as you are loved by God. And I think, that way of putting it gets to the core of the idea. We want to chase after God. We want God to chase after us. There's a reason the Song of Songs is in there. Because that's the kind of pursuit relationship that I think all people want. But it's more one that we should want to have with God. That absolute pursuit. After all, as Christ followers, we do call him the lover of our soul. Should we not live it? And as I was reading through this area, I started thinking also about the dignity. Broken people, whether it be physically, financially, what have you, people who are underneath those strains, they want to be seen as people. We all want to be seen, especially as people. And that God heals all of these people through simple words, through commands, through action, through knowing that these children of our Abba Father want to be made whole. Something we all want. So I don't think a single person who looks in the mirror and sees a broken person looking back at them wants to look at that broken person. It's tiring, it's draining, feeling like we're mistakes, worthless, useless. It's tiring, it's draining. Feeling like we're the cause of other people's problems. Feeling like we're a cancer that should just be wiped out. It's painful. And it's a brokenness that this world forces down our throats. That the enemy tries to make us focus on. Rather than rejoicing in the fact that with a simple word, God will make us whole. It does take surrender to his will rather than our own. After all, the Lord does say he will take absolute care of those who are his absolutely. And if that is our pursuit, he sees us and meets us halfway. Even if we're stumbling in the direction of chasing after him, God sees it and will meet us halfway. Like yesterday with the Roman centurion. I will come and heal them. You don't have to. Just say the word. And here we see that echo. Jesus just simply says the word. And I find it quite beautiful that he constantly is speaking words of love and life over us. The rub is, do we choose to listen to them, or do we choose to listen to the world that tries to convince us that we have no worth? Which is very counter to Jesus giving his life. So when the Son of God decides that our lives are worth his life, setting right so that we can be made whole is worth it, that should change a lot about how we interact. Because we don't have to play a game of brutality. We can trust the God who simply speaks a word and it is. It is a difficult level of trust. I'm well aware that it is far easier to say than do. The getting to the doing part is a matter of release. Focusing on a different style of living. And I do think it quite fitting that, there's the talk about Peter's mother-in-law being sick, especially since we have a culture that kind of paints mother-in-laws as a bad thing. How many jokes do people have about how their mother-in-laws behave, and we kind of treat them as lesser people? When God's like, no, you don't understand. Everyone is loved. Now, whether or not we choose to follow God, that's on us. Because at the end of the day, there are two types of people, I believe. Those who say to God, your will be done, and those who God says to them, okay, fine, your will be done. Good luck. I'll be here when you get back. Right back to the prodigal child thing. And it does make me rejoice in the fact that God welcomes the prodigal child. Because it means as long as we want, as long as the desire of our heart is for wholeness, being set right, seeing justice, God will move in it. There's a reason the Sermon on the Mount starts with the Beatitudes. The be attitudes. How to be attitudes. And I think it's interesting that as we dig into the word more and more and we see Jesus showing who he is, especially tomorrow with talking about the cost of following Jesus, it shows that there is this line. But it might be a different one than we're trying to poke at. Rather than a line of who's most self-righteous, living in the fact that God is the one who sets things right. It is a difficult place, especially in Western culture, when we have this pursuit of independence and all these things of, well, I don't need anybody else. No, that's not true. No one is an island unto themselves. We understand that truism culture-wide, but we seem to promote it, rather than embracing the fact that when we live in a way that shows love, we can see Jesus move. Because God's always acting, always moving. Whether we see it or not, that's a different question. Whether we acknowledge it or not, also a separate question. But God's always there. God's always speaking his love song words over us. The invitation is to choose to listen and hear those single words of a simple command to send evil spirits running. I will see you guys tomorrow. I know it's getting heavy and, well, kind of apropos for the stuff we're going through. But I think it's a good thing, because it shows that God is greater still. And if we're willing to put it in his hands, we can truly prosper. I will see you guys tomorrow for verses 18 through 22 if you want to read ahead. God bless, and may his favor be upon you. And know that he's got this. All we've got to do is let him. See you then.